Hello everyone, I'm Chris and this is a full recap of Sonic the Hedgehog released in 2020. If you end up enjoying this video and want to see more from us, then make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to know anytime we upload a new video. Back when Sonic the Hedgehog was first introduced to the world in his debut video game of the same name in 1991, he immediately became a massive success, and that success quickly led to the release of various sequels and spin-offs, as well as the character's transition to the small screen. With Sonic's first couple television series releasing just 2 years later in 1993, and even 30 plus years later, the character is still incredibly popular. So much so that he ended up making his theatrical debut in the year 2020, in a project once again titled Sonic the Hedgehog. This film proved to be yet another successful appearance for the character, bringing in $302 million worldwide at the box office on a budget of $85 million, ranking it as the 6th highest grossing movie that year, and spawning even more sequels and spin-offs, with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 releasing in 2022, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 releasing in December of this year, and Knuckles Season 1 releasing in about a month. So with the next 2 Sonic projects on the horizon, we've decided to take a look back at each of the current franchise's releases thus far, starting today with the 2020 film. The movie opens in San Francisco, California, as Sonic the Hedgehog is being chased throughout the city by a madman with a mustache, until the chase is suddenly paused for a moment so that Sonic can fill us in on how he found himself in this scenario. To start, he takes us all the way back to his childhood, living on a tropical island where he was taken care of by Longclaw the Owl, and was born with extraordinary powers of chaos energy, giving him supersonic speed, which Longclaw told him to keep a secret, worried that if someone knew of his power, it would put him in grave danger. But Sonic didn't listen, and it unfortunately cost him one day when, after returning home from a run, he and Longclaw were attacked by a tribe of Echidna warriors, forcing Longclaw to scoop Sonic up and attempt to fly away, but she soon sent crashing to the ground after being shot out of the air. So, severely wounded, she hands Sonic a bag of rings that it's revealed can be used to open portals to different spots in the universe, and one of which she tosses into the air to open a portal to Earth, explaining that it's on the far side of the universe and that he could be safe there as long as he never stops running and remains hidden. So, she sends him through the portal as the tribe approaches them, and presumably sacrifices herself to protect his future. We then jump forward 10 years to a few days prior to Sonic's battle in San Francisco and to Green Hills, Montoya, where he spent the last decade living in a cave underground. But despite spending the majority of his time all alone, he's still been able to find enjoyment in stuff like comic books and ping pong, and in people like Green Hills Sheriff Tom Wachowski, who he likes to call the Donut Lord because of how often Tom talks to donuts, and Tom's wife Maddie, a veterinarian who he calls Pretzel Lady after seeing how flexible she is when doing yoga. And although he's not able to interact with either of them, he does like to mess with them from time to time, doing things like zipping past Tom as he's sitting in an empty speed trap and reading 300 miles per hour on his radar gun, which prompts Tom to exit his vehicle to inspect the area, and he actually ends up finding one of Sonic's blue quills lying in the grass, which although he doesn't think much of it, he still decides to take home with him. Upon returning home, Tom's greeted by Maddie, who hands him a long-awaited letter from the San Francisco Police Department, as he'd recently applied for a job there, feeling there wasn't anyone in Green Hills in need of any real help, and fortunately, they accept his application. Shifting back to Sonic, who the following day comes across a Little League Baseball playoff game, and is delighted by the joy and friendship shared between the players. So that night, he decides to head out onto the field and play by himself, using his powers to play the role of every position and make a perfect play. But this experience doesn't prove to be nearly as thrilling, and he's saddened to not have anyone to celebrate with. So, to let out his frustration, he runs around the field as fast as he can, but his anger ultimately becomes too strong, causing him to let out an electrical pulse from his body that explodes into the air and knocks out the power across the entire Pacific Northwest. The US government is completely taken aback by this sudden loss of power, and so, having no leads as to how this happened or who was behind it, they decide to bring in Dr. Ivo Robotnik, a brilliant man with revolutionary drone tech and a perfect operations record, but who's also known to be a bit crazy. Despite that, Robotnik's still sent to find the source of the explosion, and after sending his drones to scan the area, he's able to determine the exact height, weight, spinal curvature, and footprint of the creature, which to his delight isn't of anything in Earth's animal kingdom, bringing him to conclude that it must be an alien of some sort. So he continues searching with his drones, which Sonic soon notices, prompting him to quickly gather his things and prepare to travel to a new safe planet, which appears to be filled with only mushrooms. Before he can come to terms with leaving Earth though, he hears troops in the drones approaching his cave, so he rushes over to the next closest and safest place he knows, Tom's house. There he prepares his escape from Earth, but just then he's spotted by Tom, who's frightened enough to fire a tranquilizer dart into Sonic's leg, causing Sonic to pass out while reading San Francisco on Tom's shirt, which results in the portal opening to the top of the city's Transamerica building as he falls to the floor, dropping a satchel of rings into the portal in the process before it closes. When Sonic comes to, he's left unable to really use his legs to escape due to the effects of the tranquilizer, which is pretty unfortunate since Robotnik soon arrives outside the home. So Sonic begs Tom to help him, claiming it's life or death, and Tom agrees, having Sonic hide in the attic as he tries to shoo Robotnik away. Robotnik, though, having just tracked an energy pulse with a similar signature to the one that caused the power outage to Tom's home, refuses to let up and just ends up forcing his way in. But there's nothing there for him to find, or at least it appears that way, until he notices the blue quill Tom had brought home with him earlier, leading Robotnik to aim his weaponized drones at Tom in hopes of forcing the creature's location out of him. But instead, Sonic just jumps out of hiding and distracts Robotnik long enough for Tom to knock him out with a huge right hand, before the two then head out to his truck and drive off. During the drive, Sonic explains how he'd been planning to leave Earth before all of what just happened with the use of his rings, and so, since Tom's the reason they're now lost, Sonic demands he take him to them, to which he agrees. As they enter the night during their trip, Tom pulls into a rest stop to call his deputy, Wade Whipple, hoping to reach him before a potential visit from Robotnik at the station. But it turns out Robotnik had already made his way there, snatching the phone from Wade and threatening Tom until the latter just hangs up. And things are then made even more annoying for Tom when he returns to his truck only to find Sonic no longer inside, as he's decided to put on a disguise and head into a nearby bar called the Piston Pit. Tom initially insists he and Sonic return to the car, not wanting them to possibly get caught. But upon learning how little Sonic's actually been able to experience on Earth, he decides to let them stay a while so he can cross some things off his bucket list. Their fun night is eventually interrupted though by a group of patrons who consider them hipsters and threaten them, prompting Sonic to try and smash a beer bottle over the big guy's head as he'd seen in action movies. But the glass fails to break and the big guy takes a swing at him, which ends up hitting Tom and sparks a huge full-scale brawl across the bar that Sonic eventually brings to an end with the use of his super speed to knock everyone to the floor. This giant brawl, though, ends up being discovered the next morning by Robotnik and his assistant Agent Stone, and enables them to pinpoint Tom and Sonic's exact location, onto which Robotnik unleashes various weaponized drones, and although they're able to thwart most of their attacks and get Robotnik off their trail, Sonic ends up getting the last of the drones stuck to his hand, which then explodes and incapacitates him. Tom, having nowhere else to go, rushes Sonic over to his wife Maddie, who'd been spending that day in San Francisco at her sister Rachel's house. Rachel's never been a fan of Tom though, and so believes this to be the perfect opportunity for Maddie to cut him out of her life, but Maddie instead decides to help him patch Sonic up and ties up her sister so she can't call the authorities. Once Sonic finally regains consciousness, Tom also gets Maddie to help them get to the top of the Transamerica building. Although before they go, Rachel's daughter Jojo, after noticing Sonic's shoes and socks have been completely worn down, decides to gift him a new pair of red shoes that he immediately loves. The three then head over to the top of the building and find Sonic's satchel of gold rings, so Sonic takes this time to thank Tom for saving and giving him the best 2 days of his life, before preparing to leave Earth once again. But yet again, he's interrupted by Robotnik and a new drone he calls the Egg Pod, which he'd created using Sonic's quill found earlier, which allows the machine to move at supersonic speeds, just like him. So to protect Tom and Maddie, Sonic sends them flying through a ring back to Green Hills as he's chased throughout San Francisco by Robotnik, bringing us back to where the film started. Sonic suffers greatly to gain the edge in their battle though, as Robotnik eventually forces him to escape through a ring back to Green Hills as well following a huge blast by the Egg Pod, through which Robotnik's able to follow Sonic into the small town where he prepares to put an end to him once and for all, until he's suddenly shot by Deputy Wade, who alongside multiple other Green Hills residents, including the first person to become aware of Sonic's existence, Crazy Carl, comes to Sonic, Tom, and Maddie's aid, and offers enough of a distraction for Sonic to supercharge with energy and repeatedly unleash an attack against the Egg Pod until it's rendered useless, allowing him to then send in Robotnik flying through a portal opened by Tom to the Mushroom Planet. Following their victory, Tom gives Sonic a much anticipated high five, and the two decide to stay in Green Hills, with Tom now having checked the Save a Life box off his bucket list and wanting to spend his life with the people he cares about, while Sonic no longer has any reason to run now that he has a real family in the form of Tom and Maddie, who he ends up moving in with. We then move forward 87 days and over to the Mushroom Planet, where it's revealed that Dr. Robotnik is still alive, although he's been driven completely insane. Still, that hasn't stopped him from preparing a plan to escape using the power of Sonic's quill, as the movie ends with him proclaiming to be home by Christmas. In a mid-credits scene, we meet a yellow two-tailed fox named Tails as he enters Green Hills through a ring portal. and has it confirmed through the readings on his device that Sonic is here. He's worried though that he may have arrived too late before using his tails like a helicopter to fly over the forest and into town. And that was our recap of Sonic the Hedgehog. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, let us know in the comments below what Sonic project or game is your favorite. We'll be releasing our recap of Sonic 2 within the next week, so be on the lookout for that. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.